whenever I autograph books, because I am one of those big autographers. When I autograph someone's book, I don't just say best or all the best and then just sign my signature. I always write paragraphs, especially if I know the person. I write a message of hope or something inspirational, but always without fail, or in most of my autographs, my last sentence, it's always, here is my story. I cannot wait to hear yours. And I actually sincerely mean it. And I didn't realize until I started doing these readings here on YouTube that actually I do want to hear a lot of people's stories. And if you've just stumbled upon this video and you don't know what the heck I'm talking about and who the heck I am, my name is Lebupule. I am an author, stroke memoirist. I am also a life coach and a teacher, a life teacher. So not a teacher at school, but a life teacher. And I am brand new here on YouTube. I'm starting my YouTube channel with a series of me reading from my first memoir. And what I do is I read, I reflect, and I share some lessons or pearls of wisdom or whatever it is for you. So today, instead of continuing with chapter 2, which we will of course, I figured perhaps I can also share some tips, teach you, and help you along in case you want to write your story. Because I really believe that everybody has a story, and I believe that we can all learn from each other's stories. And perhaps the best place to start, in fact, maybe before the best place to start, since I'm new here on YouTube and I said I will post 3 times a week, I'll post on Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. Tuesday, I'll read, reflect, and give pearls of wisdom as usual. But on Friday, I think I want to take you on this journey of how to write your story. The whole genre of memoir, what memoirs are, what is it, whatever. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And on Sundays, then I'll continue reading as well. But then, as a new YouTuber and trying something new, we'll navigate it and tweak it here and there and see where it takes us. Okay. So for today, I just thought maybe let me start with how is it that I started writing my book? Why memoir? Number one, couldn't I choose fiction? How did I start and how was I received? So, as you may or may not know, I've written 2 memoirs, and they're both titled Alone. And the title Alone, I've spoken about it already in the previous video, but just briefly. This is not the alone, this is not the sad, alone, sad, and left alone and abandoned and all that. I am referring to the alone that speaks to the fact that each and every one of us are living our lives alone. We are experiencing our lives alone. We may experience the exact same thing, but it will never really truly be alone. I mean, the same. You see people watching or seeing the same accident or growing up in the same family or being in a concert together. But when they tell the story, when they share the experience, it is always different. And this is the beauty and the uniqueness of human beings. And so that is the alone I'm referring to, the alone of you living your life as uniquely you. Ke bophelo ba gago, impilo yakho le, you are living your own life. It is your journey, and I think it is the joys and the beauty of the human experience. So that is why it's titled Alone. And in both the memoirs, I am sharing my memories and my experiences, the pivotal moments that shaped my life, the pivotal experiences that made me the woman that I am today. And that is why I love memoirs more than any other genre. I love memoirs. I love reading other people's memoirs and autobiographies. And there's a slight difference between the two. And as we continue with this YouTube channel, I will be giving you, I'll be sharing and teaching on the difference and, which one is best for who and so on. So there's a lot that you're going to cover. But for today, though, let me begin with why is it that I wrote these books? Why is it that I felt that my stories, my experiences are worth your time, are worth being written and actually read about? And also, why a memoir instead of fiction? A lot of my readers would ask me why, I'm such a great storyteller. Why did I choose to share real stories as opposed to fiction? I will try and answer today, but I'm sure there's many moments that we will find and talk about why a certain genre is better than the other. And also, I want to conclude with why you should write your own story, why it's important that we hear your story. Personally, I would love to hear your story. So, why did I write my book? So, I don't have an amazing answer. I wish I had an amazing answer. I actually never ever thought of writing a book, or let alone a memoir, until my 30s. In my 30s, at age 30, I went bankrupt, which is something that I'll share as I'm reading this book because it's part of a big pivotal moment that shaped who I am. And so I think around 31, when I started working again and I had a little bit of income, was it 31? Anyway, the point is, I started seeing a therapist, and my therapist introduced me, and I've always known about journaling. I've always known that you must journal, write a diary, but dear diary. And I was an avid reader at the time, and there was a book called The Artist's Way. It's a very famous book. If you're in the healing space, spiritual space, you will know of a book called The Artist's Way. And The Artist's Way had a thing called morning pages. So morning pages is that, the idea is that you wake up in the morning, before you do anything, before coffee, before anything major, you just write down whatever is in your head. Just write it down. So the therapist I was seeing introduced me to, also knew of the Artist's Way, and asked me if I do journal or do I write morning pages. And I'm like, yeah, actually, I know about journaling and I know about this, but I actually haven't practiced it. And he said, my therapist was a white man, and he said, maybe try journaling so that you can just offload some of the things and your emotional body and all that. And I agreed. I bought a journal and I started journaling. Boy, oh boy, did I not stop. I mean, journaling, in as much as I think I had at some point in my life journaled and dear diaried, but it took a completely different turn, in my early 30s when I started journaling. But, and the therapist would say, just journal about your day. Like, today was this and this and that. But it would always pivot to other memories, old triggers, and so on and so forth. And I would find myself just going on and on, page after page, page after page. And obviously, it made my therapist very happy. The more you write, the more you float, the better. But what made me finally say, yes, I think I actually want to write a book, was after I joined Facebook. When Facebook was Facebook, back in the early 2000s, I joined Facebook in 2009. And I remember being one of those people that would respond to the question that Facebook asks, which is, what is on your mind? And I would literally just answer the question, what is on my mind? Little did I know that people were on Facebook just to post their food, their breakfast, and just have strange names. I was there genuinely writing what's on my mind. And I had an inclination to just share, from my heart, from my stomach, from the truth of what was happening either that day or something I remember or whatever. And slowly I just saw a gathering happening, people just loving to read my posts and my stories and so on. And around 2010, 2011, the idea to finally actually write my story, because it also dawned on me that not many people had my experiences. I mean, when I joined Facebook, in 2009, how old was I? Yeah, I don't know. I was 32 in 2008, 33, 34. Not many people had businesses. Not many people had been entrepreneurs. And I'm not saying people were not. I was the only one. I'm just saying, in that space of sharing, there weren't many. And it seemed as though my experiences were just strange and unique. And then I decided maybe I should write this down. I seem to get people interested in some of the things that I have to say, but specifically my experiences. So maybe I should write this book down. I remembered my journals, and I still have a ton of journals, and I would page through, and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe I can write. Maybe I can write. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying journaling is usually the best place to start. And I'm going to do a separate video on why journaling is so key, not only to write your own story, but just for your own healing path. I mean, I think I healed more from journaling than from the therapist itself. And my students will tell you I am a deep promoter of journals, to a point where I have stretch journals, and I'm going to have the alone journals. We're going to have the alone journals very soon, so that it can help you along with your memoir writing. So let me then answer, why not fiction? Why did I just choose a memoir? And why not fiction? Because it seems, with fiction you have latitude and room and all that. Why did I choose a memoir? And then I will conclude with why you should write your own book. Novel, I mean, why a memoir and not a novel? Again, not a satisfactory answer, but I'll give it to you because it's the truth. The truth is, I've just always wanted to be seen, heard, and understood. And in as much as fictional writers, you can tell who a fictional writer is through what they write in their novels. I did not want to have that buffering. I did not want you to wonder and make up stories about me in your head based on the fictional characters or the stories I've written. I did not want that. And maybe later, because I do feel like there's a novel in me, even if it's one, maybe later I want that. But I've just always wanted you to see, hear, and understand me as I am. And also, I do truly feel that my story is unique in its own way. And by unique, I don't mean it's better than others or it's more special than others. It's a very, very unique life story. And I wanted it to be true and coming from me and not hidden behind characters that, fictional characters make. And I know fiction is beautiful. I love fiction. I read fiction. But I felt for me, for this trilogy, it is best that I share it as myself. And, what you see, what you hear is exactly what you get. And I know it's not the best answer, but it's the truth. And one day, yes, I will write a novel. I think there's a novel in me. There's a self-help in me. There's a self-help book that I have that I want to write about very soon. And also there's short stories. I mean, I moved in 2017. I moved to a small town in the Karoo, in the Great Karoo, Central Karoo, Beaufort West, and Beaufort. All small towns are beautiful for fiction writing and short stories. So there's a lot that I'm going to write in the future. Now, to close this session, the teaching session of Diaries of a Memorist, is that I want to say to you that you have a story, you owe us a story. And more than anybody, I would love to hear your story. I would love to see you write your story. I would love to help you write your story. Because in each and every one of us, we have a medicine. They always say that everybody has their people or their tribe. There are people who are literally waiting for your story before they can take certain steps, before they can take certain risks, before they can do certain things with their lives. They're literally waiting for your story. I'm sure you've heard of many, many, many tales or many, many stories from people who say, I read this book and then I started doing this and this and this. I heard of this one story and then I started doing this and this and that. This could be you. I kid you not, this could be you. I believe we all have a story. It might not be a big bestseller that becomes a movie, which is everyone who writes a memoir is hoping that it will turn into a movie, and some do. It might not be that, but it will have its own people that their lives will change because you decided to pen down and put your stories down. And also, I feel like as South African women, maybe I'm being biased, but I think as South African women, we have stories to tell. We have stories to tell. And I say this because of how deeply interested we are in other people's stories. When you are interested in someone else's story, it's because it is stirring something deep inside of you. It is stirring the part of you that knows that it has a story to share. And you don't have to write it as a book. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a book like this. It could be blogs, it could be essays, it could be ebooks, it could be anything. But I believe, and I know that I'm not entitled to say this, but I'm just going to say it because it's my YouTube channel. I think you owe us a book. I think you owe us a story. And if you need help, if you need a way to start, please stick to this channel because I will bring tips and I will bring ways, and I'll probably even create webinars and Zooms and maybe even physical spaces where we can meet and write, a workshop where all you do is just write and you don't edit and you don't whatever, you just write and you read for us, and then we just listen and someone else reads and we listen and so on. So there's many, many ways, because I really, really think you have a story. This is my story, and I honestly cannot wait to hear yours. Until next time, I will see you with another reading, and I will be reading from chapter 2 of Alone Growing Up in Alexandria. See you soon.